In brightest day,
in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power, Green Lantern's light.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and if you've been following the channel, or maybe you follow me on social media, you'll know that in my heart of hearts, I am a Green Lantern through and through. I love all the entire Green Lantern Corps. I love all the Green Lantern lore, and there's one character in my heart that stands above the rest, and that is Hal Jordan. But I'm not the only one. There's another Green Lantern fan out there, another member of the Corps that loves Hal Jordan just as much as me, and maybe even more. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing great. Loving Hal Jordan, like every day.
All right, so I know why I love Hal Jordan. When you think about the personification of Will, it is Hal Jordan. And you just think about his origin story. His father was a pilot who died in flight. He saw it happen, yet when he became an adult, he aspired to follow in his father's footsteps. He had the will to overcome the fear, to overcome the trauma that happened to him as a child, and even overcome the will of his mother to jump back in that and carry on the family name, the family dynasty in the Air Force. He had the will to get back in that cockpit and fly once again and become a test pilot. As far as I'm concerned, of all the human lanterns that are out there, there are none that touch the origin story of Hal Jordan. The personification of Will, in my mind, that is the origin that best encapsulates it. For you, what is it about Hal Jordan that makes him a special character and the greatest Green Lantern of all times?
Everything about Hal, again, like you said, just personifies Will. When I think about Will, when I think about it as an emotion, when I think about it as just a powerful force, Hal's face is what comes to mind every time. That perfect haircut, that chiseled jaw, that man's a hero. Always does what's right. Even at his own expense, he's got to do what's right. Everything about Hal is about being a hero. And he's just, nothing gets in his way. You talk about Guy, he's got his own personal issues. John, he's got his trauma with PTSD and his love interest and blowing up that planet. That really bugs him. You got Kyle, his mom's dead, had a big hand in that. Can you antagonize, what's his name? The villain. Forget his name, how his mom died in the fridge. But Hal, all that's aside. Those are secondary issues. Doesn't even matter. Forthright going into being a hero. That's what makes me love him every time.
He's such a well rounded and fleshed out character. And I think it has a lot to do with the writers that have really taken a liking to him, like a Ron Mars jumps in my mind. Jeff Johns would be the other one that jumps in my mind, and most recently, Robert Venditti. That really love Hal Jordan, have really put so much emphasis on fleshing out that character and creating maybe the perfect Green Lantern hero. I think is really what elevates him above the other lanterns.
With Venditti, there's that run when Hal just needed to push his willpower faster and faster, and he had to go farther than he ever had before to get to the source wall. And what came to his mind? His dad. And that's what his dad was like, encouraging him,
one of the most
telling me he was proud. I think I was getting emotional reading
when he was in the cockpit, and all of a sudden his dad's with him.
It's like, why are you here? It's the source. Don't worry about it. You can do this, son. It's like, Dad, I'm sorry. No, don't worry about it. He's like, and he powered on through. He's like, he somehow tapped into some will reserve that he always somehow has deep inside him. And I love that moment. And Venditti captured it. I loved it. It was a great moment.
I haven't read Venditti's run in a couple of years now. But now you remember that. It's all coming back to me. I got chills going up my spine again. Hal Jordan's father with him as a co-pilot, going to save the day. It's just a wonderful moment. And of course, Jeff Johns probably had the most moments with the character because he did Green Lantern Rebirth. He did Sinestro Corps War. He did Blackest Night. It's just a real full arc for the character when they brought him back from the dead. And I remember reading Green Lantern Rebirth, and there's so many powerful moments in there when you finally see Hal Jordan, and he's at like a baseball game, pure Americana right there with his old friends, and they're finally seeing him for the first time, and like the emotional reaction that the characters in the book are having when they're seeing Hal again because they thought he was never coming back. It's kind of how I felt, as a reader as well.
Just seeing the love of the secondary characters for Hal, it's like, who is this guy? I remember reading that story going, I want to know more about Hal. Like, who is this man? What made him the way he is? And that's what really kind of cemented my just admiration for him.
One of the things that I think really goes into making a great hero, is a great villain. And for Hal Jordan, it is Sinestro, his original mentor. When no one else wanted to really train him, or no one thought he would be worth the time because humans can't be good lanterns, Sinestro, took him under his wing, turned out to be for nefarious reasons, and ended up becoming, one of the great lantern villains of all time when he finally turned to the yellow power of fear and basically became Space Hitler. What are your thoughts on Sinestro?
I love Sinestro. In my mind, there's two versions of Sinestro in my mind. The version you're talking about, that John's really created and kind of reshaped Sinestro. He's that version I like more than the older version. So Jeff's version of Sinestro is very menacing. Like I said, Space Hitler is a very good comparison, good metaphor. But then there's that other Sinestro in my mind of the Silver Age Sinestro, where he's really long, lanky, and a big weird head. I also really love that Sinestro too. He's very goofy. Hal's always capturing him and let him in one issue, Hal literally just captured Sinestro by hypnotizing him in front of a screen that he just had to stay like a TV screen forever. And Hal's like, all right, you're trapped forever. And 3 issues later, he gets out of it. Of course, he turns the TV. And I love that version too. So either way, you got campy, fun, goofy Silver Age and menacing, more modern, evil Sinestro. And it's just great character, great versions of each. You can't go wrong.
Johns has really used him for so much, with Sinestro Cold War, and he played a huge part in, Blackest Night, and was seemingly redeemed at one point, in that story. He kind of saved the day at the end.
Want to be the White Lantern,
Mm-hmm. And I've liked the things that he did, but who I thought really encapsulated the pure evilness of Sinestro and maybe everything corrupt and wrong with him was actually Robert Venditti, who we've already talked about. I remember reading his run, one of the first, I believe it's his first story arc, is called Sinestro's Law, and he's returned, but he's weak. His daughter, she's basically turned the Yellow Lantern Corps into the Green Lantern Corps. She's,
they were cooperating on the Mogo, right?
That's later, but she's basically used the Yellow Lantern Corps to patrol space because the Green Lanterns are gone. They're all gone. They're missing. She has a reconciliation with her father, because he's weak and he needs her help and everything. And she's doing all these things to help the galaxy. And then you find out Sinestro has been playing her all along. He always had another plan. He was always going to betray her. He didn't even care if you're his daughter, you're his flesh and blood. He will sell you down the river if it means getting more power and instilling fear across the galaxy.
If Hal's the best Green Lantern, Sinestro is the worst Green Lantern. He's the renegade. He's everything Hal isn't. And that could be a scary thing if you think about it.
We talked about this in the past, but I don't believe you read it in the moment. But when you went back and you finally read about, Hal's transformation into Parallax and becoming this enormous villain, how was that executed in your mind?
Now, this was a big moment for me because I remember I was getting back in the comics. I had some Spider-Mans and stuff. And I remember I just went to the comic store and I found issue number, 48, 49, 50, and 51. I went to the comic store, which is a big moment in GL history. Like just like you said, Coast City was destroyed by Mongol in Cyber Superman, just destroyed. And Hal went ape. He couldn't fathom why this had to happen. He couldn't understand why the Guardians of Oa couldn't resurrect or stop or help out in any way. And he lost it. This broke my heart a little bit, seeing how this is my hero. This is the guy I've been reading all these issues, and this man just lost his mind. And I'm going, no, Hal. And he's killing lanterns left and right, taking their ring, absorbing their power, and eventually just destroys the power battery. And it was, I had to put the issue down for a second. I had to walk away from that moment. It was kind of
Were you overcome by fear?
I felt it. I felt a bit of fear, a bit right in there. It was a scary moment for me. That was my boy, and here he is. He's destroying what made him so great. It was a big moment.
It's a corruption of the character.
Mm-hmm.
It's a corruption of everything that the character stood for, and that's why I believe a lot of people turned against that, because
I think corruption is the perfect term, not deconstruction. They didn't do nothing to really. It just straight up flip of the wrist. He was evil. Once a hero takes a life, that's a big deal.
Yeah, readers put decades into that character, keeping up with the stories, and all of a sudden you just turn it on a dime, and you can see why people kind of had to leave. And I don't blame them, because that is a big change.
No, but I hope they came back, because it really did come. It really came full circle. You know what I mean? There's a really great moment. If he stuck with it and stayed with it when Kyle became Ion and he embodied the Green Lantern will, and then reignited the power battery, and then finally in Rebirth, here comes Hal. It was I hope people stuck around, because it was a big moment for me when I'm reading back issues. It was such a cool moment.
There's two more moments I want to talk about with you before maybe we move on. One of them is maybe the coolest moment possibly is, I believe it's Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern Corps Rebirth #1. Hal Jordan creates his own power ring out of his own pure will. It was not given him by the Guardians. He creates it himself. His will is so strong he's able to do that. I love that
lowly human. How could he make his own ring? No human could do that. They're not even good GLs. And look at this. That was actually I use that as an example a lot, that Hal knows what he's talking about. That's why I argued with Tom King when he put that Heroes in Crisis where Hal's questioning Will. I was like, at that moment, some editors just said, oh yeah, in this scene right here, his ring should be flying off his finger. Like right there. No, he doesn't have the will. He doesn't have great courage to overcome great fear. Get it off him. He doesn't know what will is. And
damn it, Jeremy. That was the other moment I wanted to talk about, because I was so frustrated. Not only is Heroes in Crisis just one of the most garbage, trash stories I've ever read in my life, but when you're flipping through and he's just ruining character after character and after character, and you get to Hal Jordan, overcome by Parallax, resurrected by his own will, redeemed himself in the eyes of the Guardians, becomes the greatest Lantern once again, sacrifices himself for the Lanterns, is once again resurrected, creates a Green Lantern ring out of his own pure will, and saves everyone again, and he doesn't know what will is.
What really is? What was the quote? What even is will?
What is will anyway?
What is will anyway? Yeah, I was like,
get the fuck out of here.
Who's this imposter? Was this some Hal Jordan cosplayer in this comic book? Get this the hell out of here.
Go write a Narc series or something like that on some heroes that no one cares about. It's just so frustrating being a Hal Jordan fan and a fan of the Green Lantern Corps, and just take a dump on all the fans who have put so much effort into keeping up with all the stories and investing their time and emotions into the characters. Just take a dump on them, like, oh, well, he doesn't even know what will is.
Hal, you create light constructs from that very thing you're questioning all the time. You've seen the Ion embodiment of of willpower. You physically know in this universe what willpower is. Okay, not even on an emotional spectrum. You physically go, yeah, that right there. No, yeah, you could pick it out of alignment. That's just ridiculous, Tom.
Absolutely ridiculous. That's why Tom King is the worst. So there's a couple other things I wanted to talk about before we wrap this up. The Earth Lantern they've grown exponentially. Pretty ridiculous now.
It's open recruitment time for Green Lanterns. Yeah,
you've got John Stewart, Guy Gardner, we got Kyle Rayner, we got Baz Simon, we got Jessica Cruz, we've got Teen Lantern, we've got the Lantern from Far Sector.
Oh, is that canon? Oh no. I don't even. I'd even argue the Chinese
that was just introduced in some YA book, and it's just so ridiculous. Human lanterns are supposed to be really rare. Like you have to have exceptionally large amounts of will to just be selected for it.
Well, to even be selected, it was an accident.
Yes.
Yeah, Abin Sur was he was traveling through space and he crash landed on Earth. There was never supposed to be a Green Lantern ever. And it just so happened, emergency calls. We need to find someone that can overcome great fear. Hal got picked, and that was supposed to be a fluke. And now it's just like, yeah, who wants to be a group? You? Everyone? Yeah, we're gonna be whatever.
I know you're a fan of this character, but I think Kyle Rayner is a weird Lantern Corps. Like when you tell me John Stewart, oh, he's a war hero. Like he was a leader in the military. You tell me Guy Gardner, he's a dickhead cop. I don't even like that one. Hal Jordan, test pilot, saw his father die, in a terrible crash. Kyle Rayner, artist.
Kyle's story about being a green was kind of off because again, so Hal, if people don't know, destroyed the whole Lantern Corps, like literally killed him, destroyed the battery, and just became super duper evil. Kyle became a Lantern. Was Gunthet was like in panic mode, came to Earth, met Kyle at the back of a bar alleyway, and just went, "Hey, you want a ring?" He go and flicked it to him, and Kyle's like, "What?" And that's how he kind of became the Green Lantern of Earth for good 5 years. I want to say no, not that long.
He's a lot of people's Green Lantern. I just think it's a weird origin because it makes no sense. You don't need great will to be a good painter.
No,
you just
they do argue about imagination, and the more of imagination you have, the stronger your constructs can be. But I think that's a really
that's weak thing to say. A writer or artist would say.
Yeah. He's not my favorite. I always rank it as Hal, John.
So we have that one. Yeah. That Lantern, right there, we're starting to make lanterns that make no sense. Now we got Jessica Cruz, who I like actually. I think she's a good character, but she has an anxiety disorder.
Yeah, I argued with that. That was weird.
Kind of an odd choice. Doesn't really feel like a Lantern to me. No. Simon Baz, I don't even want to get in that one. That was a strange one. But when we talk about Teen Lantern, now we're getting to points of ridiculousness. She was never even given a ring. She just hacked it. She hacked the power.
How did she get one to begin with? Bendis. I mean,
yeah. Now she has like a power gauntlet, ring-powered gauntlet thing, and it's just.
Now when Hal had that thing, that was stupid. Everyone hated it, and then they give it to this Teen Lantern, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's cool, ain't it?" No, that was.
It's just watering down the core. It's watering down the importance of being a human lantern. They've been doing it for so long, and now this weird emphasis on diversity and inclusion. Now there's got to be one lantern of everything, and now once you have one lantern of everything, there's nothing special about being a lantern. And I think it's just really detracted, and it's made the current Lantern Corps, as far as Earthlings go, ridiculous and stupid. And for people that have invested in the Green Lantern Corps and being, that's my favorite, DC character, right above Nightwing. It's frustrating. It's also dumb.
Well, I tell you, there's something, right?
What's that?
All these lanterns on Earth. What's the one thing they're forgetting to do as their duty as a lantern? What are they forgetting to do?
Probably patrol Earth.
They're on Earth. Don't get me wrong. They're not patrolling their space sector. 2814 is a whole sector of space. All right. Out of 3,000. And what are we worried about? Earth. Well, a lot of things happen out. Yeah, but there's like 9 of you. So can one of you go fly around and like solve problems on other alien worlds? I feel like we've moved away from this issue really poorly.
So there's the other elephant in the room that this will be our final topic, and it's the Ryan Reynolds movie, which is awful.
Amazing. Oh, sorry.
No, that was the bad. Weird thing about the movie is all the stuff on Oa and like Kilowog and Sinestro and all that. Excellent.
That wasn't so bad, even though Tomar 2 looked more like a fish than a bird. But
listen, tomato here, brother. The way they explained how he became a Green Lantern and the way the Corps worked and in the lore and stuff with the Guardians and all that stuff, actually executed very well. Not ridiculous. Everything on Earth completely stupid.
Yeah, Hector Hamon, I think his name was. I mean, great villain in the Silver Age, and obviously during the volume 5 or 4 with John's run. The big brain, the psychic energy, cool villain.
Probably the wrong villain to choose for a movie.
Yeah, you don't pick. That's great in comic books. You can probably animate that really well in a cartoon. In a movie with real people, it looks so bad. Stupid. And you thought,
Blake Lively is the love interest, and Ryan Reynolds is a great actor. He's a wonderful Deadpool.
Fine. Yeah,
he's not Hal Jordan.
The one line though, there's one line that I do really really like is when he meets Carol, Blake Lively, whatever, he's wearing the mask. She goes, "How?" He's like, "What? I'm wearing my mask." He's like, "Yeah, but it's just a flimsy little piece of. I can clearly see your how." I like that. I've always made that joke. Like, how's this little V in your face? The tear. That was a good line.
The other thing that's obviously terrible about it was the digital suit. That was a folly. That was a terrible decision. They probably spent a lot of money putting that effect on there, and it looked absolutely ridiculous.
Animating all that, every motion, and it just was like, yeah, this is awful. Why'd you do that?
It was terrible.
None of us liked
it. Yeah, that was pretty depressing. Although I will say, when I went and saw Justice League, which is a bad movie, when I saw the Green Lantern flying through, and the first time they fought, they're doing the flashback. When
just get a little tingly.
I was like, oh, Green Lantern. I was like, that's sweet.
I did not see that
part of the whole movie.
This is the first time hearing that. I did not know that happened.
Yeah, there's a flashback about when the Amazons are fighting Steppenwolf for the first time, and he loses his mother boxes on Earth. And you see all these heroes, and I believe it's like Hercules is there. You see a Green Lantern, and there's some other ones. There's some other cameos. I've only seen the movie a couple times. But that was definitely the best part. When you see the Green Lantern, you're like, yes, they did the Green Lantern's great.
Yeah, I want to look that clip up.
All right, it's got to be on YouTube.
I'll look around. I'll find it.
Otherwise, the movie's been terrible. The cartoons are cool, but we are out of time. We're not going to be able to dive too much into the DC animation cartoons.
If you want to do that, let me know.
We'll do it eventually. I will say this, I have a 9-month-old son, and sometimes at night, He wakes up and he won't go back to bed, and his mom needs to sleep, and his daddy will go upstairs. I'll grab him. I'll pull him down here. I'll put on First Flight, Green Lantern First Flight. I'll put that thing on. Within 20 minutes, he's done. He's ready to go back to bed. He loves watching that movie with his old man.
You're raising that kid right.
Absolutely.
You're making your own little GL. Tell him he's welcome to the core.
All right, Jeremy. Like I said, we are out of time. We talked about the Green Lantern for a good portion. Really appreciate your insight, your passion for Hal Jordan and the other Lanterns. And I can't wait till we talk about some of this stuff again in the future.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Have a good one, man. Thanks for having me on.